I am a critic, I am a critic, I am a critic, I am a critic, I am a critic.
What's up, opinionators? I'm the I Am a Critic, and it is time for me to review what is new for you. So if you have not yet seen Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, this is not the video for you. There will be big spoilers discussed in this video, so if you have not seen the movie, take cover! I'm just making sure that you in fact have been warned, so you have no more excuses if you want to keep watching this video. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. So there is so much to talk about with this movie. We've seen Michael Keaton's Batman have his parents get killed off by the Joker. We've seen Christian Bale's Batman get killed off by the guy in the alley. And now we've seen the Ben Affleck Batman's parents get killed off in slow, artistic motion. Classic Zack Snyder. There's a really strange shot where the guy who kills Bruce Wayne's parents has his gun underneath and inside Martha Wayne's necklace. And then when he fires his gun, the latch pulls back and the necklace bursts into a million pieces in slow motion. Surely that's just a waste of a necklace. It can't just be an artistic shot, the guy is killing them for money. And surely the necklace would be something that he'd want. But no, it shatters into lots of bits. And then during this scene, it also cuts away to more slow motion with Bruce Wayne running away from his parents' funeral, and inevitably, while running in the woods, if you know the comics, you know he falls through a hole in the ground and lands in a cave. But in this moment, it was really kind of strange, because when Bruce Wayne lands in the cave and he sees the bats and they all swarm him, he starts floating up in the air, and they leave it just enough time where you're thinking, this is a weird opening, before they finally tell you that it's a dream. So it's kind of strange, but it does give you the information that this obviously haunts Bruce, and this is something that really does stick with him throughout the years. And then it cuts away to a fantastic scene with Ben Affleck's fully grown Bruce Wayne landing in Metropolis during the fight between Superman and Zod. And he drives through all the destruction and the mayhem, and then he eventually gets to a Wayne Enterprises building, and he finds one of his business associates, or one of his friends, crushed from the legs down underneath a massive girder. And inevitably, Ben Affleck lifts up the girder, and it looks kind of awesome, and he saves him, but then that friend turns out can never walk again. But this is all a very effective introduction to showing why Batman does not like Superman. And then our first scene with Superman's side of the story is kind of strange. It begins with Lois Lane attempting to infiltrate a desert compound to get some information, but of course, shockingly, she gets caught. And then some guys just suddenly start shooting these terrorists, and then it turns out that they betrayed them and they drive off, and it's sort of left kind of like, okay, we don't know any of these characters. It's not really investing at all. And then, of course, inevitably Superman arrives, saves Lois, and it all looks kind of awesome. In fact, I can say this for a lot of the scenes with Lois Lane in them. Her character doesn't really have much of a point in this movie. She does a lot, but it's not things that only she can do. It's things that any other character could have done, but they're only giving these tasks to Lois to make sure, Look how self-sufficient Lois is! She's a woman! We like our women! But the thing is, it wouldn't work with anyone, because she's just kind of there. But as I said in my spoiler-free review, Ben Affleck is outstanding as Batman. I really liked his version of the character. And while I will say it was a lot of fun seeing the world's greatest detective doing some detective work, like seeing Bruce Wayne infiltrate Lex Luthor's fundraiser, there's a really awkward moment where Bruce is infiltrating Lex Luthor's mainframe with a disk drive and trying to download and hack into everything. And then Lex Luthor's assistant, I think she's called Mercy, comes down and is like, "Sir, what are you doing in here?" And they go for the absolute cliche. A woman comes up to Batman, the world's greatest detective, and says, "Sir, what are you doing down here?" And he responds, "I was looking for the bathroom." Really? So while his detective work was a lot of fun to watch, that scene really wasn't needed. And I did think it was a lot of fun seeing Wonder Woman's character get introduced in a way that you wouldn't really expect. She just kind of appears at this fundraiser, she's all very fancily dressed, and she comes out as Diane Prince. But then there's this kind of pointless plot strand where she takes Bruce Wayne's drive, she steals it, and then she uses it to find out all this information on the Justice League, and then gives it back to Bruce Wayne, who then finds out all the information about the Justice League. Having her look through the disk drive first is actually pointless. You could have very easily just had Bruce take the drive, get back to Wayne Manor, look at all the information, find out about the Justice League, and then find out that that woman is in fact something to do with Lex Luthor's company. She's this immortal person from 1918, and it still would have been shocking. But the fact that we get Wonder Woman taking the drive and looking at the exact same information beforehand, again, it kind of feels like they're just sort of going, look, women, self-sufficient. And just so you know, I have absolutely nothing wrong with women being self-sufficient in movies, but I do have a problem with it when it has nothing to do with the plot. It's the same with guys. If a guy was to steal this drive and then look at all the stuff, and then give it back to Bruce, who then looks at the stuff, it would still be sloppy. There is this kind of pointless strand where Lex Luthor's being depicted as evil and diabolical by finding the guy who had his legs crushed during the Superman Zod fight. He's all hateful, and basically Lex Luthor gives him a new wheelchair, which turns out to be a bomb, and then he blows up the embassy, and Superman goes into hiding. And the thing is, all of this stuff doesn't really need to happen because Superman returns from his self-imposed exile. Also, the bombing doesn't actually serve any other purpose than to show, look how evil Lex Luthor is. This is another reason why I said this movie would have benefited from actually being two movies, because there are a lot of separate stories that could very easily have happened. I would have loved to have seen Lex Luthor doing this evil, diabolical stuff in Man of Steel 2, but the fact that we get it all, including the Batman vs Superman stuff, it's all very rushed. There's also this nightmare scene that a lot of people figured was a nightmare scene when Batman's fighting in the desert, and then there's this moment where a guy in a big red mask unfolds his mask and he's like peering through a vortex and he's like, "You were right about him." I have no idea who that was. Looking through a lot of the comments and things, there's a lot of people going, it was obviously the Flash doing his interdimensional thing. But then, in the footage of the Flash later on in the movie, it doesn't look anything like him. And originally when he pulls off this red mask, I thought, is that Red Hood? Because he also has these eye things over him, so I was like, is that Robin? Is that Jason Todd? Peering through an alternate dimension to warn Bruce Wayne that he was right about him. And of course this all leads to misinterpreted information. Batman, I assume, thinks that the guy is talking about Superman when he says, "You were right about him," but I think it's a totally unrelated plot. And either way, it's a kind of random scene that didn't need to be in there, because there's a lot of this, "You were right about him." There was a lot of things I couldn't understand in that moment. And also, since I actually kind of liked the build and the general dramatic build up to the meeting between Batman vs Superman, I do have to admit, I was disappointed about Superman's motivation. We all can agree that we wanted to see Batman vs Superman fight because their ideologies naturally clash. And it would have been so exciting to see that build up with Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne having their ideologies clash, and then having it build up to them realizing who the other person is, and then eventually coming to blows. And Batman's ideology is great. He wants to fight Superman because Superman is dangerous, and he is a danger to the Earth, and he wants to put a stop to this and save the Earth because this will be the one thing he does in his life that really means something. Which, by the way, is a really powerful scene between him and Alfred when he's talking about that. And Superman is fighting Batman because Lex Luthor has his mother captured and he has to fight Batman because Lex Luthor told him to. It didn't really feel like Batman versus Superman. It felt more Dawn of Justice than anything. And having Doomsday appear at the end was fine, I guess. The whole build-up of having Lex Luthor going into the Kryptonian ship and then absorbing all the information about the Kryptonians, I liked that because it did almost give him a reason for being crazy. The only problem is, Lex Luthor's crazy at the start of the movie too, which is what spoiled the character for me. But after he's seen all the Kryptonian knowledge and he sees everything that's coming, like the predictions for Darkseid, even though he doesn't say it's Darkseid, at the end it's pretty obvious that that's who he's talking about. But after he's absorbed all this information, you'd expect him to go crazy. And after the big Doomsday fight, which I'll get into in a minute, you finally get Lex Luthor exposed for the crimes he did. He gets thrown in jail, gets his head shaved, which is obviously where all the pictures of Jesse Eisenberg came from. And then right at the end, Jesse Eisenberg's kind of talking to himself, predicting this whole Darkseid thing, and my god, there is a lot of snot running out of his nose. And I was just thinking to myself during that scene, I know you're crazy, but you need a tissue, mate. The entire fight with Batman and Superman is awesome, and I really liked it. It was a bit slow, it could have been a bit quicker in places, but generally I was actually very impressed. I liked the fact that there was actually a story being told through the fight. But the way it ends is so anticlimactic. This big Kryptonian staff that he's made, and he's going to stab Superman, and he's gonna kill him, and then Superman reveals that Lex Luthor's got his mum, and he goes, "We have to save Martha." And of course Martha is also the name of Bruce Wayne's mom, and that's addressed earlier in the movie. But then literally, Batman's just like, "Why did you say that name?" And then Lois appears and she's like, "It's his mother." And Batman's like, "Ah, okay. We're good, we're cool." Batman's theory in this movie is that Superman is the ultimate danger to the planet. He realizes that if he kills Superman, this could be the one really good thing that he does for the planet. And then finally, he has Superman with his foot across his neck, with a big staff, and he's going to kill him, and then he finds out this guy has a human adopted mother called Martha. And that's what stops him. And now getting on to the fight with Doomsday, I thought it was okay. I didn't really have too much to say about the way Doomsday looks because I'm not very familiar with the way he looks in the comics, though I will say, as a lot of people have said, he does kind of remind me of a cave troll from Lord of the Rings. And I did like that they applied the fact that he absorbs energy and he absorbs damage and he gets stronger, and they do show it, like they have the bones gradually sticking out and his skin peels off and he's just growing. And it's very visual and it's very intimidating and it's quite fun to watch, even though he is just a big CGI blob. And the final fight between Superman, Batman and Wonder Woman versus Doomsday I thought was a lot of fun, especially when Wonder Woman gets the lasso out and she wraps Doomsday in the lasso and she's just like, yeah! It was so awesome and it felt like the comics and it was a lot of fun. And I will say, throughout the entire fight with Doomsday there are a lot of great action set pieces, though I will say there is a lot of destruction. again. Man of Steel was a very destructive movie, and I will say I was very pleased that they addressed that fact by having Batman say, the Doctor completely abandoned, we have to keep him contained in here. And I was like, good, you're avoiding casualties, which is nice. And then we get the final big climactic moment when Superman realizes that Doomsday, since earlier on we find out that he's a merger of Lex Luthor and Zod, he realizes that Doomsday is Kryptonian, so he has the same weaknesses. So he finds the big Kryptonian staff, which weakens him as he holds it, which, by the way, is an awesome visual scene. And he lifts it up, and he flies into Doomsday, and he stabs him with the staff. But not before Doomsday stabs Superman. And when this happened, I did think, ballsy decision, guys. You're following the comics when Doomsday kills Superman. It's actually really cool to see. And then there's this vastly overblown scene at the end with 2 funerals happening for Superman. They have the big public funeral happening in Washington, I think, and then they have the actual funeral with Lois, Bruce, Martha, and all of those people appearing in Smallville. And Batman says to Wonder Woman at the funeral that now we need to get this team together because now the world is under threat now that Superman's dead. And obviously this is all information he learned because Lex Luthor, when he was shaven bald and all mad in his cell, was all like, oh, he's coming, now that Superman's dead, something is coming. And obviously it's all very much linking up to predict Darkseid. But yes, speaking of the Justice League and speaking of gathering them together, I did think they were okay in the way they used them. I wasn't a fan that they showed Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg all in this one tiny scene. Aquaman in some ways was my favourite because it was kind of random. He comes out of the darkness of this ruined ship and he just literally, this is how he's introduced. And swims away. It's really slow. It's kind of awkward that these guys are filming him and he's there with his trident and he's all just like literally, he doesn't do anything for like 20 seconds. It's kind of weird. But yes, while there is a lot of shoehorning and there are pacing issues and there are quite a few needless strands, I still think there was enough in here that I enjoyed it, and I do think it was a lot better than the 30% on Rotten Tomatoes would have you think. But anyway, fellow opinionators, if you have seen Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, what were your favourite bits? What were your least favourite bits? Please put them all down in the comment section below. Just remember, guys, this is a spoiler talk, so there will be spoilers in the comment section. But obviously, if you've watched all this video, yeah, you get the idea. But anyway, guys, of course, those are just my opinions, and also if you like what you've seen here and you like the discussion, please hit the like button, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And if you didn't like the discussion, or you haven't seen the movie, well, I warned you. I'm the IO Critic, and I'll be back again with something else new for you. See you later!